Radio Free Santa Clarita presents The Talk of Santa Clarita, a podcast about issues involving Santa Clarita and the surrounding valley. Episode 128, Board Member for College of the Canyons, Edel Alonso. And now, let's see what the Talk of Santa Clarita is.
And remember, this is for posterity, so be honest.
Here we go. All right, well, thanks for taking the time to do this today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Your name is Edel, right? It's pronounced Edel like the singer, right?
Correct, but it's spelled E-D-E-L.
Where does that come from? Is that...
Oh, dear. Actually, it's not my birth name. It's a shortened version of a very long old Spanish name.
Do you want to tell us what it is?
Edelmira.
Okay. I was just curious because I've never seen the spelling before, and for the longest time I thought your name was Edel. So, let's see. Are you originally from Santa Clarita, or?
No, I was born in Cuba.
Born in Cuba. Okay.
Yes, and grew up on the East Coast in New York and New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And then moved out to California after college graduation.
Why did you come to California?
We had my family had come out here on vacation and just fell in love with the weather.
Yeah, most people do.
So we moved.
Okay, you say you were born in Cuba. I mean,
yes.
Were your parents immigrated from Cuba to?
Yes.
Did they do the whole crossing?
They came on the freedom flights in the 60s.
In the 60s, okay,
yes.
Okay. I was just curious. I mean, you can't, you hear people coming from Cuba and
there's lots of different ways to come from Cuba, right?
Good point.
But we were fortunate enough to come out in the 60s in the freedom flights.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, have you ever been back, or?
No, I have not.
You have any desire to, or?
I may. I'm not sure.
Really?
Yes.
Why is that?
Yes. My father worked against the Castro regime.
I see.
And he has very strong feelings about communism, and so I don't know.
Were you a supporter of the Obama policy of opening?
Yes, I was.
Were you?
I think it's time,
yeah.
But I think to honor my father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotcha. So what you moved out to Santa Clarita? To California. But what brought you to Santa Clarita specifically, or?
No, actually, I moved to California and lived in the South Bay area.
Okay, South Bay.
And was working there as a teacher first and then a counselor. But my sister had moved up to Santa Clarita looking for a community to raise her children and wanted to buy property and have the children explore, nature and that sort of thing. So she moved here and my parents followed her. Good Cuban families do that. So my parents followed her, and then my mother became very ill, and I decided that I should move up here so I could help my sister care for my parents.
Oh, okay. And how long ago was that? How long you lived in Santa Clarita?
Oh gosh, I moved here in 1987.
Okay, just right when you came to the city, or around the time.
Yes.
Okay. And then you started teaching up here. You've been a teacher for how many years?
Actually, by the time I came to Santa Clarita, I was a counselor.
Okay.
And so I was hired by Hart High School by Laurie Strauss.
Okay.
And I was a counselor at Hart High School for 6 years. And then when Valencia opened, I moved over to Valencia High School. I loved Hart, and I loved working for Laurie. But the opportunity to start in on the ground floor and create new programs was just too tempting.
Right.
So I moved to Valencia High School, and I was there for only 4 years because an opening became available at College of the Canyons.
What is the role of a high school counselor specifically? And I have a follow-up to that, so I'm setting it up here.
Okay.
So.
As I viewed it, the biggest role is to guide students to make good decisions in terms of course selection.
Yeah.
Do some self-exploration to decide what it is that they want to do, what their abilities and desires are and their interests, and then help them set those goals and work towards those goals.
Okay. There
And
were,
provide the support that
and
they
provide
need
support.
to
There
be
was,
successful doing that.
the reason I bring it up is there was that, I think I believe she was a valedictorian down
Yes.
that spoke and said that her high school counselor was unavailable. A lot of the teachers weren't available for, not supportive. I mean, brought up one who was an alcoholic. I mean, is it a challenge to be available to the students?
It is a challenge.
Mhm.
But there are ways to design programs so that you do reach out to the students. You know, I've had lows from 400 to over 600 students. And at that age, students do need a lot of support and a sounding board. So I was always concerned that counselors spent a great deal of time with the students at the high end academically,
Yeah.
who are much more demanding of your time in terms of what applications do I need to fill out and where do I go to school and scholarships and the rest. And I think we spent a great deal of time, at least in my case, with my special education students because I wanted to attend every IDP meeting and I liked to make sure that things were being put in order and in place. So I was always concerned that the student in the middle, your regular student, the student that I was, that just went to class and did the homework and so forth, kind of got lost in that. So there are ways to reach out. When I was at Valencia, and I don't believe it's being done now, but at that time I wanted to make sure that we reached out to the middle students. So I developed programs where students were brought into the counseling center. We had activities for them and we met with them individually. And we did that twice a year. And did things developmentally, right? What does the 9th grader need to do? What does the 10th grader, the 11th, and the 12th grader need to do?
How long were you counseling?
Oh my gosh. I believe, let's see, 6 and 6, that's 12 and 4, so 16 years.
I'm putting you on the spot just to see if you're good at math.
Yeah, I was a counselor at the high school for a very long time. 4 different schools. But I was drawn to the college because while I was at Valencia, I started to teach for the University of Laverne in the master's program for counselors. I wanted to prepare future counselors. And so I was working full time and then I was teaching on weekends and the evenings. I loved to teach and I missed it. And when the opening at COC became available, I learned that counselors at the community college are teaching faculty as well. So I had the opportunity to be a counselor and teach. So I
What did you teach at COC?
I taught counseling classes on
How to be a counselor.
No, actually on personal development, study skills, that sort of thing. And then I always had an interest in how we learn and how does the brain work to, take information in, process it, be able to retrieve it at a later time. Yeah. And so I became interested in that and had the good fortune to work with Professor Dembo from USC. And I and some colleagues developed a course called Learning to Learn, where we took a little bit of neuroscience and cognitive psychology and developed a course to teach students how to learn.
Like what? Can you give me an example of some of the things that you would teach or in that specific thing?
Like what it is that you need to do to take information in and literally what actions to take to move it into short-term memory and what actions to take to move it into long-term memory. Which I was fascinated in, and because neuroscience today, I mean, brain scans give you so much more information that we ever knew even 10, 15, 20 years ago, where we told students go study.
I'm curious, as the time that you were a counselor, can you tell me as like an anecdotal moment or something that was probably your most challenging? Can you think of something that was...
I worked in inner city schools where some of our biggest challenges were students who were being physically abused or neglected, and that was always hard. Yeah. Students whose parents were from very low income situations, and so it wasn't unusual for students to go home and not have electricity, so there was no electricity in the house because they couldn't pay the bill. Students, young teenage mothers who were raising children.
While in school?
While in school. And then I worked at a school where there were 13 different gangs on campus.
My gosh.
And so there was a lot of turmoil. And I always felt that it was probably where I was needed the most. But there was I was there for 6 years, and it was always a challenge.
Right.
Some of our students were so angry.
At what?
I think at circumstances, at being poor, at being picked up for, and having a probation officer and in and out of juvenile system. So that was a challenge. Trying to provide services so that they could be successful academically, so that they could have a better future, was a challenge when they were dealing with so many personal issues that they were angry about or depressed about.
Yeah.
So our counseling session required a great deal of skill to just calm things down, listen to them, see what the real issues were, and then move forward. So.
What would you say is your most satisfying moment as a counselor?
As a counselor?
Yeah.
Seeing students do well academically and move on and feel like they're going to be able to provide for their families.
And you would see that a lot?
A lot.
Is there any student in particular that stands out to you that?
I ran into a student at UC Irvine once who said, "Edel, when you helped me, you helped my entire family." He had 7 younger brothers and siblings. And I remember, oh my gosh, those parents didn't know how to fill out a financial aid form application. And I remember, bring all the paperwork in, we'll sit down, we'll work through it, we'll figure out a way to fill out this form. If they'll allow me to be of help.
Right.
And so he was the oldest, and he was in the band, I remember, and he couldn't afford the uniform, and that was an issue. But it was so satisfying to see him years later working at UC Irvine, having received his degree, and saying, "Gosh, you helped 8 of us, not just one."
Right. I would imagine that you have to wear many hats as a counselor, and because it sounds like, financial aid forms, helping fill out, that doesn't sound like something that you take a course in beforehand.
No.
And you did. How long were you at COC doing this?
At COC, I started there in '94, and I retired in 2015.
2015. Wow, long time.
So a long time. I had moved from high school to high school, but I think the college was the perfect place for me to work.
Why is that?
For many reasons, because I was able to teach, so I was in the classroom as well as in the office dealing one-on-one.
Yeah.
I personally think I would have been at a disadvantage being a high school counselor if I had not taught before, and I had taught before. So that you can understand what the classroom is like, how the challenges of dealing with, in some cases, 45 students in a classroom, all teenagers.
Yeah.
That's quite a challenge. Most parents have difficulty with 1, 2, or 3 children. Imagine a high school teacher who sees 35 every hour, 5 hours a day.
Well, that was one of the problems with the LAUSD strike, was that they were wanting to put 45 students in a classroom. Would you say that's one of the bigger problems for?
Yes, I've had as many as 47.
47?
I had a classroom with 47 students, and that is a real challenge, right? Because you really don't have, in a 50-minute class, what does that allow you? A minute per student?
Yeah.
It's really not enough.
I can, when I first went to college, was at the University of Kentucky, and I can remember our chemistry class was 300 people for the lecture. And, there was no interaction with the teacher. And many times just going, well, what's the point in showing up? They're not going to know if I'm there or not, and I don't know what's going on anymore. And I can't ask them because,
Yes.
It just says something, I think, about being lost, becoming a number and things like that.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. But at the college, I could teach, and I could also be a counselor.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate that about a year after arriving at COC, there was an interest in starting a MESA program. I don't know if you know about MESA.
No,
it's
why don't you
Math, Engineering, Science Achievement Program. And it's to encourage underprepared students and underrepresented students. For example, in these fields, women, for example, would qualify for majors in those areas. And so we set up, I loved the opportunity to be their counselor. So even though I was a general counselor and I became department chair and other things, I was always the MESA counselor while I was there, which is very, very satisfying. So we received students, some of some who had not had the academic preparation that they needed to go into those fields, right? Had never had a trig class or algebra 2 or pre-calculus or any of that.
Yeah.
Chemistry or any of those science courses. But they came in and said, Edel, I want to be a doctor or a pharmacist or a mechanical engineer or a chemical engineer, and I'm starting over at beginning algebra. What do I do?
Right.
And so the director at the time was Susan Crowther, and we actually started in a small little portable trailer, a study center for those students, where we provided access to computers and counseling hours. I would go down to their area to hold counseling sessions and guide them on what courses to take. And then we, all sorts of things. We, access to textbooks. So the departments would give us textbooks that we kept in the center so that the students would have access to them in case they couldn't purchase them.
Right.
Set up study time, tutors that would come in and help them. And we later moved into an actual space that was much larger.
Is that program still going?
That program is still going, alive and well, and I'm still in touch with some of those students, and I do have researchers and dentists and pharmacists and all sorts of mechanical engineers and chemical engineers and industrial engineers, and I'm still in touch with them in Facebook, and I'm so proud of them.
I'll just what is it, the Michael J. Fox quote from Doc Hollywood? It's like, no, the Woody Harrelson quote. He goes, I could have been a doctor. It's just that whole science and math thing got in the way.
Those are tough. A lot of tough courses.
Yeah.
But it goes to show you, doesn't it, that if the student has the interest and the will, and we provide the support services, the tutoring, the space, the sense that we're a family, we're going to help each other. And it was so satisfying to see them, sit there for 3 hours working on one engineering problem that I didn't understand on the whiteboard. It just went on and on and on and on. We even had a kitchen. We got a microwave and a refrigerator so they spent the entire day there, of course. These are long chemistry, a 5-unit class with a lab. My goodness.
Well, chemistry.
Yes.
Yeah. As soon as I went, okay, there's the electron, proton, and neutron. That's all I need to know. Don't want to know anymore. Don't. And the chemistry teacher's like, oh, there's so much more. I'm like, no, not for me.
Very exciting.
So, and then after you retired, and you've been on the COC board for how long now?
I was elected in 2016. I retired from the college in 2015. But while I was at the college, after being department chair, I also served on the academic senate, which is not the teachers union, but the academic side of the house.
Right.
The state of California has a law that says there has to be what we refer to as shared governance, but it's collegial consultation is the legal term. So the faculty are responsible for 10 areas, including grading, standards, graduation requirements, the development of curriculum, and that sort of thing. And I became involved in that as a representative on there, and then was elected president of the academic senate. And in that role, really became involved in a lot of committees on campus that had to do with reviewing programs. I co-chaired the budget committee, college. I was sat on policy council and the like, and really became interested in the governance of the college and the importance of having the right policies that have an effect on students.
Right.
So after I retired, I decided to run for the board and was elected in 2016.
What was your motivation to run? I mean, why did you want to be on the board?
I think I felt, and I still feel, like I have a unique perspective, right? I'm a person on the board who is very close to students. I was close to them in the classroom. I was close to them in the counseling office.
Right.
So I think I have that perspective of seeing things through students' eyes. And I've been criticized for that, but I think in terms of, if you make a decision, how is it going to impact the student? How close are we going to affect the student?
Right.
I'd rather add another course section than a new office building or a new something else.
Right.
I have a bias, and I admit it, and that is.
Well, I mean, a bias toward the students is not a bad thing.
Well, but I tend to ask, how does this affect students?
Right. It's, and I'm a student at College of the Canyons right now.
Yes,
I don't know if you know
and
that or not.
congratulations. I know you received a scholarship.
Small one, but
yes, but every little bit helps.
If anybody knows my history with college in general, particularly the first time around, a scholarship of any type for me is a major accomplishment.
But Steve, isn't that the beauty of a community college, right?
Yeah.
That the door is open to any student at any age, at any time.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. When I enrolled, I was very nervous about walking onto a campus at my age and coming back into school, and found that there are a lot of people, of my age that are there, mixed with the students of, 18, 19 years old, and everybody gets along great. And I think that my personal feeling about College of the Canyons is you see where the money goes. I mean, every room has a smart board. They don't seem to be lacking in supplies for certain things, and the faculty seems very hands-on. It's been a very rewarding experience for me as far as being at that school.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, when you ran for the board, did you find? Were there things that you felt that needed to be done that were differently, or things were needed to change, or?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
yes.
Let's talk about it. Well, I mean, what did you see that was an issue that needed to be on, that you wanted to address on the board?
Well, I'll mention one because I talked about it when I was campaigning.
Mm-hmm.
We had students on campus with disabilities
Mm-hmm.
who had expressed concerns about navigating the campus.
Yeah.
Whether going uphill or downhill, or being able to access restroom facilities or a classroom, or be able to fit a wheelchair under a table or a desk, or
Right.
those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I learned that, and I experienced it in our own counseling office, where there were so much furniture and things around that students couldn't navigate the halls properly, and we had to move furniture to do that. But we had a lawsuit against the college about difficulty accessing the campus.
Were you guys not abiding by the ADA, or?
I think efforts were being made to abide by it.
Yeah.
But there are older buildings, there's newer buildings,
Sure,
there's a combination of buildings and so forth. And it came to a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
My feeling was at the time, and it still is today, that if a student has an issue with accessibility, whatever it may be, that I think attention needs to be put on that and resolved as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So no student should feel like they can't access the classroom or a restroom or a building. I didn't understand why he had reached a lawsuit. Had the student been satisfied with a remedy, that would have been, I think, a good action to have taken. Instead of not addressing things to the student's satisfaction, and then leading to a lawsuit, which led to an investigation that revealed thousands of non-compliance issues.
Yeah, I've seen that at the campus. I mean, yeah.
And so now we're left with having to remedy over 6,000
wow.
Items that need adjustment and changes. And that's a very, very expensive proposition, right? And in the meantime, that student didn't feel like he was helped in the immediacy of the problem.
Right.
And perhaps we could have addressed things right then and there to avoid the lawsuit.
Well, what happened there? Why wasn't this?
I'm not sure, because I wasn't on the board at the time, right?
Yeah.
But it's something that really stood out in me.
Yeah.
And I'll give you another example. we had a bond measure to raise funds, and one of the goals was to build a student services building.
Okay.
And of course, as a student services person in counseling, I think I would always have preferred a classroom building or laboratories. I think science labs are needed. And that's why we're building a new science lab over in the Canyon Country campus. But at the time, and they said, no, we need to, I was told by the administration that we needed a student services building. And I said, okay, but then isn't the goal to have a student services building where we would gather all of our student services? Because right now, our students are having to walk to one building to pay for their classes, the business office, and another building for the veteran services, and a building for EOPS or whatever. We're spread all over campus. So if we are going to build a new student services building, this may be the only opportunity we have to bring all those services into one location, and we could share space, right? I would love to share space with the Career Center and the Transfer Center, so as a counselor, students don't have to navigate from my office down to the Transfer Center to someplace else, but we could coordinate services and have a common classroom for workshops, a common computer lab for students to do research on colleges and opportunities. So I finally said, okay, this is a good idea. I was disappointed when the student services was built.
Yeah.
Because we still have student services all over campus.
Right.
The fact is that the chancellor decided she wanted an office in that space, and along with that came the PIO department, which is the publicity department, and along with that came some administrative offices, and the decision was made to bring the foundation office into that building, and that would not have been my choice.
I see. Now,
I would have.
That was before you were on the board, though, right? I mean,
that was before I was on the board, right? So I felt like, I don't know that I would have the opportunity to make those decisions, but I certainly wanted to voice the needs of students should come first. And if we're building a new building, I would much rather have services for students than offices for people who already had offices.
How is Chancellor Van Hook to work with? The board oversees her, correct? Is that
the board has the responsibility of approving policy, and they have the responsibility for the hiring and evaluation of the college chancellor.
Okay.
So we really only have one employee. Now we have to approve all hirings and everything else,
right?
But she's our main responsibility.
Okay.
And I had worked with Dr. Van Hook for a long time. She's a former counselor, so we have that in common.
Okay.
And as academic senate president, I met with her on a regular basis. I sat on committees with her. So I think we had a working relationship, and a cordial one.
She's certainly...
Yes. And she's done a great deal for a sleepy little college.
I was going to say, considering the growth of the school in the past, since she came on as chancellor and to now, the growth of the school has been phenomenal.
Yes, and the number of programs and opportunities for students has been amazing. Yeah. She truly is. You hear that, but it is true that she is a visionary leader. Yeah. She took a sleepy little college and has grown it to a very, very fine institution. And I admire her for that, and that is very, very true.
There are some would say, though, that she has been there too long, that it might be time for her to step down just because of the length of time she has been in charge. Do you see her, do you see that need, or do you feel like
I don't know that that's necessarily true.
Okay.
What I see is that after you've been in an institution, and this just doesn't apply to Dr. Van Hook, but to other people on campus who may feel that they've been there a very long time, they've grown it to be a very, very good college, and so they fail to see maybe those small instances where there are things that affect students that could be made better. Yeah. So, you know about all the classrooms with the fancy new electronic smart boards. Yeah. I know where the classrooms are that there was a gas shut-off valve in the middle of the whiteboard. That's why I say that I think that my sitting on the board brings a perspective that's very different from most people, right? Most people see the very beautiful campus, the beautiful new buildings, the number of programs that we've added and increased. I know the program that didn't work.
Right.
And ask myself, why couldn't we have made it work?
Right.
So I do bring a very different perspective because I know the college from the inside out in a very intimate way and in a very different way.
Yeah. Now, are you on the board? Are you the only one that has experience as a teacher at COC and a counselor? Yes. Okay. What are the other? I mean, what are the?
Let's see. Trustee Berger, Michael Berger, is in finance.
Okay.
Steve Zimmer is an attorney. Joan McGregor is in real estate.
Okay.
Michelle Jenkins manages the office, her husband's medical office, medical practice.
Okay.
So I'm the only one on the board right now
with actual
with
experience.
Education in the classroom and not just in the classroom. I think as a counselor, your perspective is also very different, right? As a classroom teacher, I focused in on my subject and to become an expertise in that subject and in teaching that subject.
Right.
In the counseling office, I needed to be aware of every service on campus so that if a student said, Edel, I'm sleeping in a car and I'm having difficulty, getting to class, or I'm not bathing, or if a student says, I don't have enough money for my children, I'm now divorced, I'm a single mother, I've gone back to school, I needed to know more than just what was happening in the classroom.
Right.
So I needed to know the classroom, the curriculum, what was expected to go to UCLA versus Cal State Northridge versus Cal Lu, or Berkeley or wherever else. I needed to know that. I needed to know policy in terms of academic standing. Are you going to be allowed to stay here? Are you going to be dismissed? I needed to know conduct. I needed to know policy. I needed to know curriculum.
Right.
I needed to know programs, and I needed to know the services that could support students to their benefit so that they could be successful. Because it's not good enough just to say, take this course, and this course, right? It's, do you have the financial means? Or can we provide, can we look into financial help? Do you have the support? Because if you don't have the support of family and friends, what group on campus can provide you that support?
Right.
If you're interested in developing leadership skills, can we get you involved in that? So the counselor has a very different perspective, I think, from other faculty. Not that they're not aware of those things, but not to the extent.
Right. Seems almost like to be on the board almost should be required that you have some kind of connection directly to the college in a certain sense. I mean, it seems to me you bring a perspective that, like you said, that no one else has, and it's a perspective I would want to have on the board specifically.
Thank you. I feel that way. Yeah. I think very strongly about that. But I don't think everyone should be educators, right? You are elected, as I see it, you're elected to the board to represent the community. And so there are advantages to having someone like Joan when they purchase new property, or when we lease property so that we can offer classes in Canyon Country, for example. We opened up a classroom space in Canyon Country over by the theaters. So we try to get close to the community, and we teach English as a second language non-credit courses all over. So there's advantages to having someone who has that as an expertise. Just as there is an advantage to having an attorney on the board and someone who knows finances.
Sure.
But there is an advantage to have someone who's been close to students, and close to students in ways more than just in the classroom.
I want to ask you a question that's been bugging me about College of the Canyons for a while, and I guess you would be the person that would know more than anybody else. Why is there a parking garage in the very back of the parking lot, as opposed to building it over by, I think it's lot 8 or 7 or something, like where everybody really parks to go to classes? I don't understand why. I mean, if there was, when I would park in that back area, there was never a shortage of parking spaces. But
what do you mean by the back area?
Toward the athletic area.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it seems
the corner of Rockwell and
yeah. It seems like to me the area that's natural to build a parking garage for more spaces is up more toward the Van Hook Center or in that area up there, because that's where everybody's parking, because that's where, it's quicker access to the classes. It just didn't. When I heard they were going to build a parking garage, I was like, oh, that's great. Well, more parking. And then I found out where they were going to put it. I was like, well, that doesn't solve anything. I'm still going to have to walk a mile to get to class. I mean,
walking is good though, Steve. It's a good thing to do.
Well,
but I'm actually pleased that parking structure was built, and for two reasons. One was I was at the college for a long time.
Right.
I think it's 16 years. And during that time, the one structure that students asked for was a parking structure.
Okay.
And we built a lot of other buildings. And this was the last building on that campus to be built. So I was very pleased that we finally got to the one structure that students asked for.
Okay.
And that was important to me.
Yeah, but it's in the wrong place.
Well, the other thing is that it was built on already parking space, right?
Yeah.
So there was already dedicated space to that. And that corner is such, in terms of topography, that we could build a 3-story building without it being built above street level.
I got you.
So we built a 3-story building, but in fact, only the top story is at street level, and the other 2 are below.
Okay.
Which pleased, I think, the residents of the summit who were worried about a tall structure. So it was built on already designated parking space. It was built in a way that was built into the topography and satisfied our neighbors, and it still provided the parking space. So
is that was Measure E money, right? Is that the
correct?
Okay, was that the only thing that Measure E went for? It was put in the
parking
structure?
Because we're building, and it's in process now. A new, I believe it's like, I was going to try to remember the number of square footage, but we're building a huge science laboratory building at the Canyon Country campus.
Okay.
And that construction has already begun, and that's really needed.
Yeah.
As someone who understands the curriculum and understands the number of science majors that are at College of the Canyons, biology is one of our largest number of graduates and transfer students, or those areas. And there are a lot of courses that you need to take in those areas that are sequential, right? So it's not taking one biology class, it's taking a series of biology classes, and sometimes 4 or 5 biology courses, or engineers and science majors have to take a lot of chemistry, for example, and it's at least 5 courses. So the need for science lab space was really, really important and needed to be addressed. And I'm very, very happy that we're building that science laboratory space.
Stirred up a little bit of controversy. I mean, there were the people that were very anti-Measure E. There were people that were pro-Measure E. I mean, I think a lot of the people that were anti-Measure E felt that we don't need another tax or whatever to subsidize the school. Can you talk a little bit about what are the benefits outside of the school itself? How does the community benefit from the school expanding and updating itself?
Well, bond measures are a double-edged sword in that, on the one hand, it benefits the school.
Right.
But you're right that, on the other hand, it's an added tax to the community. So it can only work, I believe, if the community is assured of exactly what that money is going to go for.
Right.
And there are assurances that money is being spent adequately for the things that you promised the community. But if you do that, the community benefits, because the more educated your community is, the more benefit in terms of economic growth for the community.
Right.
We have partnership programs with industry in the valley that for job training for them, that benefits them. If those companies move into the area and can provide jobs for the community, that's also an advantage. So I think there's lots of advantages for the school to provide the opportunities for education that benefits the community both economically and academically.
Does it? I was told that actually by keeping the school at a certain quality and allowing it to grow actually can help property values around the area as well for Santa Clarita itself, because the school is known to be a good school.
Yes, because families move into areas to raise their children and want to have good education system for their children. Safe and good education. So it makes sense that families want that, not just for their elementary school, but for their high schools and their college. We get large numbers of William S. Hart High School graduates that go to COC.
How do you feel about, I mean, is attendance up or down right now, or do you know?
I think we're about the same. We went down a bit this year. I don't know, I want to say maybe around 300. But attendance at the college is calculated a little differently in that we may have 20,000 students, but our revenues are based on full-time equivalencies. So for every 12 units, that's considered full-time, and we get revenues based on that. That's our base allocation.
It just seems, in particular, my field study, architecture, it seems to be, the size of the classes seem to be shrinking right now. And I was just wondering if that was overall part of the school situation, or maybe it's just the program I'm in right now, or...
Well, it's interesting because our enrollment usually goes up when there's an economic downturn.
Oh, okay.
So the better the economy is doing, the more people go to work. Right? But when the economy goes down, then people feel a need to go back to school for retraining or to develop a career. So that's not unusual.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, you're familiar with Lee Barnathan, right?
Yes.
Okay, and Santa Clarita Gazette. Lee has been doing a lot of stories on COC as of late. Matter of fact, he's going to be doing a podcast with me in a couple of days here about it. And I just, I know, I was reading his articles that you seem to be the go-to person for quotes.
How did that happen? I've never met him.
Do you just believe in transparency? Is that a reason why you always talk to him? Or,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for using that word.
Transparency?
Yes. And that was another issue when I ran. I wanted that perspective from someone who knows the school from the inside out and was close to students. But I also believe in transparency. And I think we all should. We're all taxpayers. This is our community college. And it's an excellent school.
Yeah, it really is.
It's such a good school, and we're all proud of it, and we want to shout out to the world what a good place it is. But when there are things that don't work well, we also, I feel, have an obligation and a responsibility to the community to say, golly, this did not work well. Let's admit it, and then let's look into it and remedy it. Like the lawsuit about the disability thing, right? Which was not spoken about. And I thought, there's no need for that. If we have a problem, let's face it, let's deal with it, and let's be open about it. And I feel that way about everything. I'm known at board meetings for asking a lot of questions. And sometimes I see my fellow trustees kind of roll their eyes at, there's 24 items.
Usually if they roll their eyes, you're probably doing something right.
There are 24 items on a consent calendar, which means we take one vote on 24 items. And Joe McGregor and I are famous for, I want to pull this item out and that item and that item and that item because I want to discuss it. I have questions about it. And sometimes, I may know more about it, but I still feel that these are items that are important, big expenditures, or just something that I think the public ought to know. So I want to pull, I think there's too many items on a consent calendar that some people feel are just routine, expenditures, budget transfers, that sort of thing. And I think contracts, I think we need to pull those out and have a discussion, ask questions, get answers, and then take a vote. I don't like voting on things not getting all my questions answered.
Right.
Now, they will tell you that we have an opportunity to send questions to Dr. Van Hook on Monday by 5 o'clock, which I honor and I try to do. But regardless, even when I get those questions answered, I've thought about it and I now have additional questions on those items.
Sure.
Or I'm there at the meeting and another question pops up, and I feel like if I'm going to represent the public, there may be other people out there who have those same questions.
Right.
So I do ask a lot of questions. I wish more people would attend the board meetings. I also wish they were televised and put online so people could view them. There is a system by which you can view the board meeting, but it's rather cumbersome to sign into the software in order to watch it.
Well, the website in general for College of the Canyons isn't exactly user-friendly either. So,
but when you have public officials that the public has voted for, I think we're accountable to the public. I think they should watch me and decide, yes, I agree with her and I want to re-elect her, or no, this person is not doing what I expected that person to do, and I want to be able to vote them out. So I think that public view is really important, and we have very few people for the community come.
what do you think about some of the things that Lee has been exploring with COC? I talked to him about it briefly, and I mean, he felt that his attitude seems to be that, you know, that an organization as large as COC needs to be held accountable, and that you know, these are things worth exploring. I kind of, and I'll probably bring this up with him in the podcast, but I kind of feel like, you know, you turn over a rock, you're going to find something, mm-hmm. you know, anywhere, you know, particularly in an organization the size of the COC.
Yes.
I'm sure there, you know, just about with any organization, there's little things that you can zero in on and go, well, that's not right, you know. Does he have points on some of the things he's exploring? Like, for example, I think it was a campaign office or something in the mall mm-hmm. that for Measure E. That was used, and you know, I mean, you thought supposedly it was a violation of a campaign, or could have been.
Right. And I will say that I'm glad that Lee is bringing attention to the college mm-hmm. in those ways.
Yeah.
Not because I don't like the got you, mm-hmm. but it's if we're a public institution and we're funded by the public, mm-hmm. as I said earlier, we have an obligation to be transparent to the public. Mm-hmm. So if there is something that a person in the community brings attention to and is asking questions about this, was this done correctly?
Right.
Was this done legally? Was this done properly? Mm-hmm. Were procedures followed? I think that's perfectly legitimate. Mm-hmm. And the college should respond with, let's take a look at it, let's look at the facts, mm-hmm. let's have a discussion about it, and see whether in fact there has been some improper action, and if so, let's remedy it for the future.
Have these issues that Lee has brought up in his articles, have they been addressed at board meetings? Have they been talked about? Or
no.
Not at all. Why not? You're being silent.
Well, I think things need to get put on agendas, right?
Yeah.
And then we can discuss things that are on the agenda. So they have to find a place on the agenda.
I mean, can you just do that? Or is it more like the city council where you need 3 people to put it on an agenda, or what?
That's correct.
You need 3 people to put it on an agenda?
I believe so, yes. But regardless, right?
Yeah.
I contacted my board president to say these are things that I would like to have a discussion on. I'd like to take a look at any documents, and I would also like access to our attorneys so that we can consult them.
Right. But I'm dumbfounded by the idea that you need more than one person to put something on an agenda. It seems to me, not to pull any punches, but kind of asinine. I mean, I've argued that with the city council. It's sort of like a vote before a vote. You know what I mean? It shouldn't one board member be able to put something on an agenda if they felt it was necessary? Do you agree or disagree?
I agree.
You agree? Okay. And you're being quiet. Okay. You're being diplomatic, I can tell. I
ask for information a lot. Mm-hmm. I ask for reports a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's quite a while before we receive those reports or that information.
Do you? I mean, are you the only? I know it's a nonpartisan position, but you are the only Democrat on the.
I am a registered Democrat, yes, but it's a nonpartisan position. I'd like to think that both Democrats and Republicans are interested in the education of
I would
our
like
children.
to think so too.
Yes,
I'm just. Are you the only Democrat on there? Or
I
did
believe
you,
so.
Yeah. Do you think that that might be part of the friction, or if there is friction or things?
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I actually believe that every member of that board loves the college, wants to do the very best. I don't always agree on the approach.
Yeah.
You know, I like to ask questions. I like to receive information. I like a lot of data.
Yeah.
That helps me make decisions.
Yeah.
I think some of the other board members have been with the college for a very long time.
Yeah.
And have this reliance that the administration will make the right decisions. And maybe that's why they don't ask as many questions. They feel that, well, we've been here a long time, we have complete trust in the college. And
there is bringing up Chancellor Van Hook, there is some would say that Diane Van Hook, that the board has, in a lot of ways, kind of become the yes committee, or to whatever she wants. You know, the board just naturally just agrees with her at this point without challenging any of her choices or decisions or anything. You don't see it that way, I assume, or?
I think I actually took a look at the past year once and counted how many votes. We probably vote together and vote aye on like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
But I don't always vote yes. I voted no on salary increases for the administration this year, for example.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, about the salary situation.
Yes.
Because there was the Proclaimer did an article about, I guess, adjunct professors not, basically getting a living wage for the work that they do. That they're struggling to survive and everything, and while still teaching.
Poor adjuncts, move from college to college, picking up classes here and there, and they don't get benefits. So that's an unfortunate circumstance, but it's true of all the colleges. I, in part, voted no for this increase in administrator salaries this year because we were at impasse with the faculty, with the full-time faculty.
Yeah, that was the other question I had for you.
So the full-time faculty and the administration had not reached an agreement on the collective bargaining agreement. We were at impasse. We'd gone to a mediator, and the faculty were out there during the rainy days with informational picketing. And I thought it was in very bad form for us to give a pay raise to the administration when we had not settled with the other employee groups.
Well, I mean, it seems like the faculty should get the priority. They're the people on the front line working with the students.
Well, and we have support staff, right? We have classified staff who keep our buildings clean and do all the background support work. So I just felt, I wasn't sure at the time that it was merited. And even if it were, I thought it was in bad form to do so.
What was the argument for doing that, though? I mean, how did the rest of the board come to the conclusion?
The administration does an excellent job.
And that's all they said, and they just... But, I mean, you did resolve the issue with the faculty, though.
Yes, we did reach an agreement with the faculty.
Was there any fear that they... I don't know, I didn't even know they had a union until this year, but could they have gone on strike? Was that ever a concern that might have happened, or can they even go on strike? I don't know if they can.
Well, I think it's faculty take, like most unions, take progressive action. They'll start providing information, and if they feel like they're not being listened to, they're not making progress, and they'll take to the community and make the community aware. And I suppose at some point that could have been a vote, but at least in the time that I was at COC, we never did. I mean, the faculty never.
Right. I
That's
didn't even
right.
know. I mean, like I said, I was surprised to find out they even had a union.
Yeah, they're an affiliate of the California Teachers Association
Okay.
and
Okay.
the NEA, the National Education Association.
And I'm curious what you think about, I mean, what do you want to see in the future for COC? What do you want to accomplish as a board member? What do you want to see the board accomplish as things move forward?
You know, the college is in the right trajectory in terms of having partnerships with the city, with the schools and industry. That's a good thing. More recently, there's a more emphasis on career education. And I really believe that career education and academic education go hand in hand. No matter, you go through the academic world, but eventually you're going to have to find a job for yourself. So those career pathways are a good thing.
Right.
So the college is in the right path. My concerns have to do more with the workings of the college in terms of transparency with the public, making sure that our board meetings are made accessible to people, if not physically by allowing people to come, although I don't know if you've ever seen where a boardroom is. It's very difficult to find on campus.
It's not where, I mean, where is
It's not easily accessible. It's at the bottom of Hasley Hall.
No, I would never find it.
Exactly. But you know, electronically, we could make it more accessible and more user-friendly than our current system. So transparency is important for me, and that means feeling that my questions are more welcome than I feel right now, and that more time is allotted for discussion. And I just feel that way about all public institutions, that there's more open discussion for the public to view what the stance is for each of your elected officials. I want to know how my elected officials feel about things and how they arrive at a decision, instead of just calling for a vote, everybody votes, and I don't know why people have voted yes or no or abstained. I want to know that. That's important for me as a voter. And I would like that on our board as well.
What was this your first time to run for anything?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
What was your biggest surprise when you ran?
That I won?
Did you think you
But
didn't
I was
have a chance?
hoping.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, right? I have no experience ever running a campaign. It really was, it was run from the dining room table in my house and my kitchen table. I had my family, stuffing little bags so I could go door to door and hang them on doors. I did have the support of the faculty, which I think is understandable because they're probably the people that know me the best.
Right, sure.
These are the people that I've worked with and have seen me in a leadership role and elected me to be their academic senate president. So these are people that I admire and the classified too. I mean, I think I had fans amongst the administrator. I worked with them for a long time.
Right.
And I do love the college.
Are you going to run again?
Yes, my plan is to run again.
And I mean,
but I don't plan to be on the board
to the end of time.
Yes. I think it's important for people to serve and then to step down and encourage others to come up, because I think there's lots of people in this community who have a lot to offer.
Right.
I would like to see an educator on the board. I think it's important to have that voice represented.
I thought about running at one point. Just thought it'd be interesting to have a student on there.
Yes, I think that would be a wonderful thing too.
It would be interesting,
yes.
wouldn't it?
We do have a student trustee that sits on the board.
Okay.
But that's a position where you have to have courageous people in that role, because you're a student and it can be, I think, a little intimidating to sit with the board and the administration.
Yeah.
But we just had Sarah graduate and move on to Berkeley, and she was an excellent trustee, and we now have a young man, Basil Arana, and he seems very vocal. At his first meeting, he has lots of questions, and I was so pleased to see how vocal he was.
That's great. Now, Scott Wilk started out as one of his first elections was a trustee on the board. Do you have any aspirations beyond being on the board of COC?
No.
No.
No. My entire life has been with education, and that's where my passion really has been all my life. But I was a faculty member at COC when Scott sat on the board, and he was a good friend to the college and continues to be a good friend to the college.
Okay. Do you think you can get Diane Van Hook to come on the show?
Has she not ever been on this show?
I've approached her several times.
Oh, really?
And I usually get no response back when I try, because I'd love to have her on, but I just never get a call back.
Well, I'm happy to mention it to her.
I would appreciate it.
I just assumed that she had, because I know she has been on SCV TV with.
Well, this is
Mr.
the dog.
Warden,
This is
right?
the Dog and Pony show, so
Right, but it's.
Well, you didn't have to agree with that part.
Okay. Well, I'm pleased to speak to anyone in the community who's interested in hearing about COC.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on the show. So.
Thank you so much. We're very lucky in this community to have College of the Canyons.
I agree.
It's an amazing place, and our students are very fortunate.
I think it's a great school.
Yes.
Great school. I usually ask for people to tell me a joke. Do you have a joke of some sort you can tell us?
Yes, it's a college joke, but
Okay.
I have to tell you, I'm not much of a joke.
That's okay. I'm not.
But
pointing to
my joke is, why don't flat earthers want to go to college?
I don't know why.
Because they don't want to become well-rounded.
That's good. That's very good. And any tattoos?
I don't have any tattoos.
If you're going to get a tattoo, what would it be?
Oh, I don't think I would get a tattoo.
You wouldn't?
No, that's
okay.
just not me.
This is not you. Okay. And the last thing I ask now is, put you on the spot here. What is your best evil villain laugh?
Oh gosh, I couldn't even. I can't even begin to do that. I wouldn't know how, Steve. An evil laugh.
Okay, you don't want to try?
No, thank you. Just,
Adele, I do appreciate
I went, oh my gosh, do I really have to do this?
Well, Katie Hill did.
Yes, I saw them do it, and I'm like, really? I don't. I thought, well, maybe I should practice one and see if I could.
Well, I'll give you a pass this time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Adele, I appreciate you being on the show. It was very informative. Maybe you can put a word into Diane Van Hook's ear. Let her know that I'd love to have her on the show as well. So
I will mention to it. It was a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed the talk.
You've been listening to The Talk of Santa Clarita. Listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud.com, YouTube, and Stitcher. Barring a life event getting in the way, a new podcast is available every Tuesday. Questions, comments, and show ideas can be sent to thetalkofsantaclarita@gmail.com. You can also call or text us at 661-505-8672. That's 661-505-8672. Follow us on Twitter at The Talk of SC or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Talk of Santa Clarita. You can also visit our website by going to www.thetalkofsantaclarita.com. This has been a production of Radio Free Santa Clarita Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To donate, go to radiofreesantaclarita.org/donate. Radio Free Santa Clarita, on the net and on the air, and we're very much aware.
Any questions?